What's up, everybody, and welcome to the all new Financially Free Era podcast. And this is going to be a spinoff, I would say, or a branch over from the Financially Free Friday episodes from the Student Loan Planner podcast. If you've been following along for a bit, the Financially Free Fridays have been a good time. I've enjoyed them over at Student Loan Planner, but we felt like it made a lot of sense to kind of move from our sister company since we focus a lot more on financial planning, some overall financial planning topics, not just student loans, and have a clear separate channel for us to really drive deep into high or big insight packed interviews, market updates, financial strategies, maybe even real stories from physicians, veterinarians, dentists, other high income earners or income earners who have quite a bit of student loan debt that still are bread and butter, folks who have a lot of student loan debt. That is who we typically work with. But this I think will give us the avenue to be able to do that in a more intentional way. And I brought Sim, my girl, Sim, over here to launch off this podcast today. And Sim is going to tell us, why did we choose ERA, financially free ERA?
Hey, everybody. So let's nerd out a little bit. Why era? Era is a significant period of time. Doesn't have a defined scope necessarily, but you can't say era without thinking about Taylor Swift. Am I right? She
Mhm.
is like, hot in our millennial era right now. She had the whole Eras tour. Um, Other types of eras we might know about, the whole like boss babe thing, right? That refers to like a young entrepreneur starting a business, someone maybe who's rising the ladder in corporate. That type of era is something I think about as more temporary, right? There's going to be a point where that person's not doing that anymore. And maybe I'll juxtapose that with like the mom era, which people think is short term. You think of like, okay, I'm changing diapers, I'm schlepping my kids from here to there. But you're always a mom, no matter how old you are, no matter how old your kids are, right? You're always in your mom era. So that's more permanent. And that one I kind of relate more to when we think about the financially free era, is that once you hit your whatever financially freedom is, we'll talk about that a lot. But my hope is that once you hit that, that's ongoing. It's not something that's like short term for you. And I just want to throw in a nerdy tidbit. A lot of you guys may know this, that I don't have a background in finance and I fell into becoming a financial planner. My background in college was Middle Eastern studies and I took Hebrew. So the word era also has some religious significance. There are some religious groups that actually debate about how old the earth is. Believe it or not, these debates are happening, right? Is the earth 6,000 years old? Is it billions of years old? And the reason that they fight over it is actually a word in Hebrew called yom, Y-O-M, yom. Translated very literally, yom refers to a 24-hour day, but yom also means era. And so you can use era to refer to like a period of time that could be like millions of years old. So people who are having this debate, like, is the earth like super young? Is it super old? Know the origin of the word. So, anyways,
Mhm.
era is a really important word. It's a significant period of time, and we think that financial freedom, financial independence is significant.
Very significant. And that's what our goal is in our profession, is to get our clients to financial freedom, whatever that means for that person. And yes, that's going to be the point of today's episode. Is we're really going to drive down into what does financially free actually mean? Because you might off the cuff think, oh, that just means like when you get to retirement, but not necessarily. I think there's a lot of different definitions for financially free. And today is a great opportunity to break those down. And so I'm excited after, 6 months of really powerful conversations that we've had over on the Student Loan Planner podcast about big student loan wins, practical advice for folks who have student loans. We're really stepping into this new space, the financially free era by SLP Wealth. And it's going to be more about just money. It's going to be more than just money. And we really feel strongly about designing a life where your finances fuel what freedom looks like for you, or whatever that looks like. So let's jump into it. I think that is a good opener and rationale for why are we here. But let's talk about financially free. Why financial freedom gets confused. There's a couple different reasons. It's not always, and just like I mentioned, it's not always about never working again. It's not necessarily about being debt free or hitting a number. And the phrase, I think, gets co-opted by influencers or fast fix formulas, which, oh my goodness, I did a whole episode on the Student Loan Planner podcast about, trends that were keeping you broke, social media trends that were keeping you broke. So TikTok trends, like they really kind of sheds or they shine some light on certain topics, but they also can get misconstrued or like thrown all around in different ways and maybe unpacked like something that the definition actually doesn't mean. So I think real financial freedom isn't a TikTok trend. It's not a trend at all. It's deeply personal to the person who is making that decision on what financial freedom means to them. And it's rooted in your values and your own lifestyle. So let's talk about some flavors of financial freedom. I'll throw that one over to you, Sam.
So there are many different flavors. There's more than the five we're going to talk about, but we always like to kind of make a nice, neat list. That's how we do around here. So part one, number one, freedom to choose work that you love. I think right now, and I'll say this like as neutrally as I can, but we are in a special type of political era right now. And people have to make decisions as far as what is acceptable to them. And some people are choosing to stay in their jobs. Some people are choosing to change jobs. And having financial freedom for some people means being able to make that change, being able to make that decision, not feeling shackled to a particular job, a particular employer, a particular location. If you want to move, it means being able to choose work that you love where it is. Number two, freedom from financial chaos. So there's been some, let's call it market movement. That's been a little bit spicy for some people. And
Right.
I always remind people investing is a long-term activity, which I define as more than 5 years. So if there's, some downward volatility, that could just be an opportunity to buy things on sale or just ignore what's going on around you. If you have a plan, stick with your plan. But freedom from financial chaos means you don't have to worry about the noise that's going on around you. You can kind of just float on by in your boat and be confident in the plan that you have and in what you've built for yourself. You don't have to worry about what your bank account says. You don't have to worry about what the stock market is doing necessarily.
hmm Yeah, we do preach long term, and I think our financially free Friday episodes, we talk. I think we did a good job kind of leading up to some of the things we'll continue on, on this podcast. So definitely go check those episodes out in the past. If click on the titles of what's interesting to you, and that can kind of give you that foundation of what we're going to continue to chat on. But we'll continuously point back to things that we feel are pretty foundational when it comes to a financial plan or kind of our mindset when we're thinking about financial planning for individuals or professionals with student loan debt. And yeah, I think financial chaos are, the folks that we work with are not strangers to financial chaos because of the student loan world, also, like very much so. And like freedom to choose the work that you love. Like a lot of times we have situations where we have somebody who's kind of forcing a square peg into a round hole, like trying to stay at that PSLF eligible job, for example, for the loan forgiveness, when it's just not working or when it's not sparking joy or making you happy. And I think a big thing for us is shining light on how that doesn't have to be like the handcuffs. Like you don't have to be handcuffed to anything. Like this is your life. We only have one life here. Let's
That's right.
enjoy every day. Let's enjoy the things that we're doing. And financial chaos, like just the student loan system in general, has been pretty chaotic. Maybe some would say very chaotic over the past 5 years, especially. And we've had to navigate that, like figuring out, okay, well, we thought this was our plan. We're pivoting to a different plan. So I feel like, the folks that are highly educated, that have a lot of student loan debt, that are trying to do the right thing with their money are super resilient as well.
Yeah, you have to be a little bit.
You do. Yeah. So I think those two things like are very important to the people we work with, like freedom to choose where you work, because that is a big part of your day, big part of your life. You put a lot of hours into what you do for work, and then being able to kind of emotionally you regulate yourself through some of the financial chaos and feel financially stable, like through some of the things that, or a lot of the things that get thrown at the folks that we tend to work with. But sorry, I cut in there. Let's pick up pick back
Oh
up with
yeah.
freedom to take
So
a break.
let me talk about this one because this is something that I've done. I feel really passionate about. So being able to take a break, and there's different types of breaks, sabbatical, parental leave, that's more extended, or even just scaling back your hours. A lot of you guys know from other podcasts I've been on that I had a very long fertility journey before I had my twin boys. And after my, gosh, fourth pregnancy loss, I decided to take some time off from work. That's something that we were able to do between what my husband and I had saved and, what he was bringing from work, the cash flow we had. Maybe in that sense, you could call it a version of financial freedom because the cash flow was able to support us. And so I had a whole plan where I was going to quit my job and just spend a few months, doing my appointments, healing myself, mental health and whatnot. Now, unfortunately, or fortunately, my break only lasted 2 months and I got sucked into the student loan planner universe. And so I only got a 2 month break, but that was still wonderful. And I was working part time too with student loan planner before, I went full time. And that was really healing for me. I have my twins now. I don't regret the time that I took. And that can look different for everybody, what a break looks like for you. Speaking of PSLF, I remember one client I worked with a couple years ago. He was less than a year out from PSLF. He was like right at the finish line, and he was so burnt out from his job that he just basically told me like, "That's it. I'm done. I'm going into private practice." And we kind of talked through other options, like, "Hey, maybe just like do something totally unrelated to medicine. Can you like work in a library for 30 hours a week?" Like all these other options.
Right.
He was so done. And I can't help but think if he had maybe like a few years earlier, if he had been able to take a sabbatical, like maybe just 6 months away from his job and then moved on to something else, maybe he could have finished PSLF. Or maybe that was the right call too. Maybe that goes back to the freedom to choose work that you love. But I can't help but think that sometimes taking a break is strategic in getting you to where you need to be financially too. Or
Hmm.
not just financially, but where you want to be in your life.
Hmm. Yep. And yeah, I think there's a lot of folks who, you know, would really appreciate some kind of break or pause. I know I've been in situations where I'm like, man, I wish I could just literally pause time. There's, a lot of different things I want to do. I just want to pause time for a second so I don't have to miss out on other stuff. But I'm sure too, like folks could benefit from breaks, from toxic work cultures or from, situations that are just not serving them to be able to have time to just think about like, what's the next step? What do I really want? And financially speaking, like there are ways that you could do that where we have a really beefed up emergency savings account. We've got the funds, the means to be able to take that pause or take that break where actually I was looking at this stat recently about how there's a large percentage of people who are not able to cover even a $1,000
Yeah.
emergency, like a large percentage of people. If something were to come up right now, it would be going on the credit card, which is accumulating debt, versus coming from a savings account. And so we preach a lot, emergency savings, super boring, right? High yield savings accounts have made them a little nicer with a little bit of interest growth, but having that freedom of that emergency savings like gives you peace of mind, gives you freedom to make decisions that you don't have to be tied to the month to month paycheck kind of situation where you could literally take time off and not stress about it because you have money in savings that you can live off of to do those things. Like that's super freeing if you think about that, like think about that for a second. Like could you do that? Or imagine like what that would look like if you did, how refreshed you might feel or how like how much insight you may have gained from that time off to figure out what your next move is. Like that's really powerful.
Yeah. And just a quick note on the emergency fund, something I say a lot is 5,000 is the new 1,000. I'm not a fan of the
Right.
$1,000 emergency fund. I know that came from, I'm not going to call it TikTok finance. We all know who I'm talking about. That
Hmm.
maybe was okay back in the 80s, but it's not going to go as far today. So
Yeah.
5,000 is the new 1,000, but always work with someone who knows your situation.
Yeah. 3 to 6 months is a good rule of thumb. But yeah,
Yeah.
like something to start with is a goal.
Yeah.
Another way to think about financial freedom is freedom to say yes to big things. So that house, that family trip where you pay for everybody in your family to go, that dream vet clinic if you're wanting to start a business. You these things can be really important and really huge and impactful in your life if you're able to say yes to taking that chance, taking that risk. Family vacation isn't necessarily a risk, but I don't know,
It
maybe it
can
could
be.
be. But, taking on that big thing, um, if you're financially free, if you're financially ready for that position to take, like it could mean like a really big thing for your life. And it could be you stepping into your next era, right? Your business owner era, your homeowner era. So those are, I know, big goals that a lot of folks have is, I want to buy a house or I want to upgrade my home or, get a bigger home because I'm in a starter home right now, something like that. Or I want to start a vet clinic. Like that could be a really scary thought, like starting a business. But think about how much freedom that could give you in the future. Like if you're building a practice, you're owning something that's generating income over time. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of work that goes into that. But think about the financial freedom it can really generate for you.
Even just professional freedom, like if you're your own boss, you can run
Yeah.
things your way as you see fit. That can still bring a lot of meaning and joy into your life.
Yeah, and like the family trips or like big vacations. Like we're only on this earth once, and your kids are only as young as they are today. You and your spouse are only as young and able and active as you are today. Like, do things that light you up, that make you excited to be alive. And that excitement, that happiness, that freedom, that peace that's already within you is going to carry through to your work as well, which is, I think, a really positive way to think about, putting your life kind of first and then your job. Hopefully it is something that you love, but pouring your heart into your job too and doing that happily because everything else in your life is really going well too.
I love that.
Now,
So everyone just heard you say, Megan, that I should buy a new house for my kiddos. That's what I heard.
I am begging Sim to come live in North Georgia with me here in north of Atlanta. I want Sim to be my neighbor.
All options are on the table. So and I guess the last thing we would say, our last flavor of financial freedom, and this is probably the most important one I would say, is freedom to sleep at night.
Hmm.
So peace of mind. You can, I think, not put a price on peace of mind. Just knowing that, okay, I might not have everything. Maybe I don't have the house, but I don't have to worry about how am I going to pay my tax bill. I don't have to
Hmm.
worry about what's coming next. I don't have to worry about an emergency. That peace of mind is probably the most valuable thing you can have.
Hmm. Yep. And I think that peace allows you to be happier in other areas of your life, focus on other areas of your life versus being so stressed about money. And I think the folks that we work with a lot, student loans are oftentimes like the big elephant in the room. It's the first introduction that they have to finances or financial planning, and it's not fun, right? Student loans stink. They suck. So, and they can oftentimes be a big piece to the financial puzzle. And if you don't have a game plan for the student loans, then that can really negatively affect your finances because we hear all the time. I know you still do, Sim. People put off life decisions or
Yeah.
financial decisions for their student loans or because of their student loans because they feel paralyzed with like exactly how to move forward, exactly what their plan should be. So I've literally had folks like jokingly, but I know they're serious, tell me like they have intentionally not legally gotten married because of their loans because they don't know what would happen with, is my spouse's income going to factor into my payment? Is it not? Like, do I need to file separately? I've had folks tell me that they've waited to buy a house because they don't feel financially ready, financially free,
They
to
wait
be
to
able
have
to do that.
kids.
They wait to have kids because kids can, add a cost into the mix. So there's a lot of things that, and student loans is an example, but there could be other things like credit card debt or, um, you know, again, not feeling like you love your job. Like there's a lot of things that can really hold you back from moving forward in your financial life to where if we could build a good plan around how to get you there, how to get you to that financial freedom, like let's work towards it. Let's not just kind of what is it, roll around in that feeling of not knowing what to do because that's what so many people do for so long, right? How many times have people told you, Sim, like, man, I wish I talked to you 5 years ago or 10 years ago?
Yeah. It's like
Or
that saying, like the best time to plant a tree is yesterday, the next best time is
yeah,
today. But it's so true. Like you don't want to just live in this place of stagnation. You don't want to be in the stagnant era. Okay.
right. Yeah. No, we don't want stagnation. So that's really our goal here with this podcast to continue, from what we were doing on the Financially Free Friday episodes from Student Loan Planner, is to continue on giving you little nuggets over time, things that you can use to throw in and like implement into your life that's going to make your finances better or more optimized or easier, or like kind of get rid of like the uneasiness of not knowing certain things. So there's going to be a lot of education, which I'm excited about. But let's talk real quick, Sim. What does financial freedom mean to you? Because it is very specific to you, right?
Yeah.
Everybody's financial freedom, what it means to them.
I think that I am a lucky human and that I enjoy the work that I do. I don't see myself ever like voluntarily just stopping,
Oh,
retiring
thank
fully.
God.
Don't see that in my future. And a lot of people talk about like retirement. I'm like, have you thought about what your retirement's going to look like? A lot of people end up leaving retirement and doing something, going
Yeah.
back to work. So I don't think about it that way for me. I think about it right now, at least in this era of my life, as cash flow freedom, meaning
Mhm.
I can't retire. I do have to work. I have bills to pay, but I do fun things too. And I don't
Mhm.
feel like necessarily like I have to hold back. Like I'm a big fan, everyone knows this, I'm a big fan of farmers markets. I read Michael Pollan's Omnivore Dilemma, where he talks about the concept of shaking the hand that feeds you. I'm all about the locavore movement. I probably spend more, like groceries are my entertainment budget. Like
I
my
love it.
husband just, yeah, we go every Saturday. I talk to a lot of the farmers there. It's just what I like to do. It's more expensive, but that to me, like making those choices, buying, shopping with my dollar, voting with my dollar, that to me is financial freedom. So I am
Hmm.
working. I can't stop working even if I wanted to, which I don't. But um, I like how I live. I like our lifestyle,
Hmm.
and that to me feels free.
I love that. And I love that you love working because you're my fave coworker.
Megan's like, if Sim leaves, I leave. No
For
one's
real.
leaving. That's how rumors get
I
started.
know. Yeah, no one's leaving. So financial freedom to me, let's see. So one of the big goals I had was purchasing my more long-term home. So it's not, I don't think it's going to be my forever home, but it's my long-term home where I do expect to raise kiddos. The high school is right down the road, and all the schools are really close by. Lots of kids in the neighborhood, but that was a big thing for us is purchasing our home. That was a big financial decision. It was very stressful because we bought in 2021 when COVID happened in 2020, so interest rates were super low, and the market kind of caught up after things with COVID settled down, where interest rates were still low, but then prices, like sellers started taking advantage of increasing the price. Then, if the interest rate was so low to borrow, then mathematically, like they could increase the price because people could afford more with the lower interest rate. And so at the time in 2021, there was literally bid wars going on where people were just throwing cash out, on offers, no contingencies, no inspections, nothing. And that was super scary for me and my husband at the time because that was our first time buying a house. And we're like, no, we want an inspection. I'm sorry to be annoying. And it's not annoying to like want those things. It was a very normal, like part of the
Right.
process. But it was such a weird time that like folks who had the financial freedom to just throw money down, right? And not worry so much or stress so much about like what happens in an inspection that comes back if there was something wrong, like maybe they had the cash to fix it. At the time, we didn't have that much financial freedom. We had the financial freedom to purchase the house, but not like if something seriously was wrong, we did not have that risk tolerance at the time. So it was a pretty scary time, but we did buy our home. We are still here. We love it. We're so excited for our next era, which hopefully is the mom area or area, the mom era, the
Please, dear God.
parenting era. Yeah, that's hopefully our next step in life. We're, mom and dad to some doggos. We've got one, two doggos here that, I wish they would count as real children. They sure feel like it sometimes.
You could just count them as dependents on their taxes,
Right. I
file a tax
wish.
credit.
They're pretty expensive.
Megan,
But
it's so funny to
yeah.
hear you say that your house is not your forever home. I've seen your home. I'm like, shoot, it'd be my forever home. It's like
Yeah.
it's so beautiful, like right out of a magazine, like what I forgot what it's called,
Oh,
Southern Living or something, but like it's
yeah.
it's beautiful. Like if you could raise children there, that'd make me so happy.
Yeah, yeah, thank you. And who knows? Like I really, really love this home. It is more of it's like a suburban home, so there are a lot of younger families in our neighborhood, which is really fun. The only what or only reason I say not maybe not long term is I could see ourselves like downsizing in the future to like if it's just me and my husband in the future and our
Yeah.
dogs, like we probably wouldn't need the bedrooms that we have or the extra space, but so yeah, so that was one of the big financial freedom things that I had achieved in the past and stepping into this new era, like also the cash flow, you mentioned cash flow freedom. Like I think that's a big part of mine too. Like I think that's really freeing to not have to stress about every single penny about, did I go $3 over budget at the farmer's market, like you were saying, Sim. It's nice to not have to think about that too. That's a really great place to be financially speaking with your cash flow and your budgeting and your spending and also your I say this a lot, but your contentness with like where you are in life and what kind of life you are living. Are you happy with where you are right now? Or are you constantly like trying to get to the next level, kind of the keeping up with the Joneses mentality? Like I really want to never feel like I'm at that chase, like I'm chasing that next thing. So I'm with you where I feel pretty comfortable with where I am right now. And there are other things that I want to accomplish, other financial freedoms like retirement one day that I want to accomplish. But in this era, I feel like I'm doing the things that I want to do to feel financially free.
You want to hear
So
something funny? I am actually oddly nostalgic about my penny pinching days. I got
yeah.
married very young. My husband was in his senior year of college. I just graduated, so I was supporting us on a $35,000 a year salary in Philadelphia. So does not go
Wow.
very far. It was tough, and yeah, like the example you gave, like did I go $3 over? That's literally what I was doing. I would make a spreadsheet,
Mm-hmm.
had a budget for everything. I was watching like everything that came in and out. But oddly enough, I'm still like very fond of that era. It was our first year getting
Yeah.
married. We lived in a crappy mouse infested apartment. It was terrible,
Oh
but
no.
it almost felt like it was us against the world. And we
Hmm.
were young and in love, and we were just kind of doing it together. So
Hmm.
even though now it's like we're in a better spot, sometimes it's just worth it to be like you were saying, like content where you are. Like we didn't have much, but we were still like just so happy and surrounded by people we love. We were in a fun city. It was a good time.
Hmm. I love that. Being content is hard these days. Like with social media, the way it is, like you are constantly being marketed to. Even the folks you follow for just like workout tips or something, every other post is an ad for something, right? Because here's my promo code for my protein powder, or here's my promo code for this supplement. Like
And
there,
they're all about like putting you down. Like you're
yeah.
ugly, you need this makeup, you need this face cream, you're fat, you need to do this, you eat poorly, you need to eat this way. Like it's all like negative. I hate ads. I don't
Yeah.
even like look at them.
It's tough. And so sometimes it's even hard to know if it's an ad. You're like watching something thinking it's entertainment or for like something funny, but somehow, some way there is a sell in there. So it is really, 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 really hard these days because the comparison trap is very real where you compare yourself to what other people look like they're doing and how happy they look. And being content can be something like I always say like it's not about being okay with just being in a crappy circumstance or a circumstance you don't want to be in forever. It's about appreciating like where you are right there and knowing that if you're not super happy with where you are, like there are steps to get yourself like working towards a better direction. But if you are in a decent situation, you are in a place that you literally dreamed about 5 years ago or 10 years ago, because that's what I remind myself a lot of right now. Like when I'm feeling stressed or I'm feeling like I'm comparing myself to something, like I think about myself 5 years ago before we bought this house or before like we had SLP Wealth and what I was doing for work and everything. And this is literally where I wanted to be. Like this is literally was my dream 5 years ago. And so I remind myself of that to kind of bring me back down and be grounded on, okay, yeah, I'm just where I needed to be right here, right now. And so sometimes folks need to do that. And that in itself can give you a little bit of freedom, freedom of your mind and freedom of like feeling like you need to be jumping to the next thing because maybe the next thing will come, naturally or with your planning and goals and everything, but maybe right now is exactly where you wanted to be a few years ago or however long ago.
So maybe we should pivot and talk about some of these different types of fire that they, post about on Reddit.
Yeah, we can't talk about financial freedom without talking about the fire movement and the different like types of fire. So let's jump into there.
So there's lean fire, and that's about living pretty frugally, pretty modestly right now, so you can retire early, also to live modestly.
Yeah. Well, in FIRE, just as a refresher, if you don't know,
Right.
FIRE means financial independence, retire early. So, kind of a similar flavor to the financial freedom era that we're talking about, like being financially free in a lot of different ways. This is financial independence or freedom, same thing. And then retire early, though. So, this movement is very much like focused on I want to get to retirement as soon as possible. And that just means not having to earn income go and earn income to live. You're living off of unearned income or
Like your
investments.
right, your portfolio.
Yes. Yeah. So lean fire, like you were saying, living super frugally now to retire early on a pretty modest budget. There's some like extreme examples of frugality. Like, have you actually there's a show about extreme frugal. I can't remember exactly what it's called. Have you seen this or heard about this?
No. I know people have done it though. They are not
It
happy though, let me tell you, by and
Yes,
large.
yeah. It's very, very, very interesting. Um, one of them, the what I think about every time I think about this show, it's probably kind of gross, but there was one couple who was doing this lean fire movement, like living super frugally. They were so frugal that they used the same string of floss between spouses.
That's unsanitary.
I know, I know.
Oh my gosh. That
Oh,
defeats the purpose of flossing, doesn't it?
yeah, because there's so much like bacteria and stuff between your teeth
Yeah.
and like so yeah, that was like something that scarred me. I was like, "Oh my God, this is way too frugal. I could never in my life even think about
But
doing that."
when you think about it, it's not even frugal because then when you have gingivitis or like other gum disease and then
It's
you
gonna
have to
cause
pay for
other
that,
problems.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
Penny
there's
wise,
another
pound
one.
foolish.
Some of these like super frugal things are kind of gross. Like another one was like they only flush the toilet after number two, not number one. And
Oh
it's
yeah,
like,
there's a
okay.
saying, if it's yellow, let it mellow. If it's brown, flush it down. I've heard that.
Yeah. So like we're talking extreme frugal. So I think there is a balance. There's like you don't have to go that extreme, but there are folks that do naturally live frugally and they are okay with living on a pretty modest budget. Again, the contentment conversation, like they're content with a certain lifestyle and they can get to that retire early situation by living that lean lifestyle over time and then living that same lean lifestyle in retirement. That is not everyone's cup of tea, though. So let's talk about fat fire, lean fire, and fat fire.
Okay, listen, I know I said I didn't want to retire early and I don't, but if I'm ever gonna retire, this one calls to me. Fat fire, save aggressively so you can retire early and live comfortably. And this, it's not just comfortably, it's like it's living well. Like you can take
Yeah.
nice trips. Like that's why I call it fat. It's like a really
hmm
nice, super comfortable retirement. But you
hmm
do have to save aggressively to get to that point if you're trying to get there quickly.
Yeah. And I literally think about this. This is how like weird and nerdy I am sometimes though. But I think about this when people like win the lottery or when people get like an inheritance or we also live kind of in the OnlyFans world these days where
Yeah.
OnlyFans models can make a ton of money for the first couple of years of their work. Like I think about people or even influencers just in general, like influencers who crush it in the first few years of working. I want to talk to them. I want to explain, like, if you just took like 75% of what you're making, like, and we're talking about people making millions,
Right.
if you just took 75% of that, go blow the rest, whatever, or 50% even, and you went and invested that today, can you imagine? Like, you'd be able to fat fire yourself into like an early retirement living well because you saved so much in those really high income earning years. And there, like, literally, there are things that people probably can't do long term. I don't think we've seen like kind of that stage yet where influencers, which is kind of like our generation, our genre, like it's a profession. Like people literally can say I'm an influencer and I do stuff online for our sell content. I clicks or whatever it is. However they're getting paid, like that is their job. I don't think we've totally seen a lot of folks retire yet or retire, or like go into a different type of business or like I don't know. I'm kind of rambling right
The moral of the story is if you or
now.
someone you know works for OnlyFans or you do other online content creation, you probably want to talk to one of our fiduciary financial planners so you don't have to
Yeah.
do it forever if you don't want to.
Yeah. So you don't have to do it forever. Exactly. There is barista fire.
Oh, I
That's
do love this one.
you do hitting financial independence early enough to work part-time or in a passion job without needing the full-time paycheck. We actually see this quite a bit, like people wanting to do this or people actually doing this. This is pretty common, I feel like.
The reason I love barista fires because you might not know this about me, but one of my longtime dreams at some point is I would love to own a coffee shop just because of what coffee shops have meant to me, like in
Hmm.
my 20s, just a place of community. I do love coffee and tea, like I'm a snob about it. I think that'd be so fun and probably a lot of work too, but it would be totally a passion job.
Hmm. Yeah. And like you were saying earlier, like a lot of people do end up they go into retirement completely and then they get bored and then they come back and they try to find something to do part-time, like
It's
either
boredom,
consult.
it's lack of fulfillment, even just
Yeah.
like what am I doing with my day? Lack of community. That's a huge
Hmm.
one. And there was
Intellectual, like curiosity, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I actually took a health and societies class in college, and they were looking at like different communities, like in different parts of India, and they noticed better health outcomes in communities that were like very tight knit because they were taking care of each
Hmm.
other, making sure that they had like transportation to get, health care, making sure like,
Hmm.
hey, you don't look so well, like, having someone notice that you might not be doing well, and even just like the mental health benefits. So
Yeah.
that's a lot of that can get lost when you enter retirement.
Hmm. Yep. If you're not super close. That might also be why those 55 and up communities are more popular because like everyone in that community is probably in retirement. They're, hopefully just doing some easy things across day to day, walking around the neighborhood, doing the fun activities at the clubhouse or whatever. But you've got
Playing
folks that
bunco.
like, yeah, playing bunco. Hey, my neighborhood does it. Next is Coast Fire. Saving enough early on that your money grows on its own so you can coast without needing to save more for retirement. So this is a lot of what we talk about with our folks because we typically have like pretty good income earners that we work with who can save. And if they're working with us early enough, like especially getting their student loans in order, we're preaching and coaching and advising that we're saving now. We're starting to save something that's pretty reasonable within their month to month budget. And that's going to help them coast into retirement where they don't feel like they have to catch up later because they've been doing it since their 20s, you know?
Mhm.
Is that how you would read it too?
Well, I've heard this a couple of ways. That's one definition. The other one I heard is like once your portfolio hits like a certain dollar value, then you just totally stop saving at all, is what some
Mm,
people do. They just don't make any contributions, which for most of my clients, I wouldn't recommend because there's certain tax benefits to
yeah.
saving, or there can be, or even if you're doing like backdoor Roths, there's no tax benefit today, but there can be in retirement. So there's still value in saving now strategically for estate planning. But yeah, I think there's a few ways to think about it, but the power of starting small and being consistent cannot be overstated.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Compound interest is super helpful and impactful. So fire, I think sometimes fire has gotten a bad connotation though, where people feel like like they hear that term and they're like stressed. So like, oh God, I'm so behind. I can't even think about fire. But fire did the good thing about, I think, the fire movement in general is it got a lot of people thinking about freedom, financial freedom in different types of ways, like how they could be financially free in different types of ways. And I think maybe a way to also think about it or think about financial freedom in general or your financial free era, whatever that looks like for you, is it doesn't mean that you have to necessarily retire at 35 or 45 or 55. It doesn't even have to be early if you love your job. You just need to be in a position where your money supports your life and not the other way around where you're feeling like you're having to work for that dollar every month, every year. to be able to survive. And that's kind of a cycle that a lot of people do find themselves in for a long time, where they are paycheck to paycheck, where they have to have that income coming in. There's not flexibility, and so if we can build in some of that flexibility, build that build us up to that place where we don't have to be waiting on that paycheck every month or every year, even. That's something that could be very freeing. So, what's the call to action for today? We would love to hear what financially free or being financially free means to you, what your financially free era is going to look like. Message us on Instagram or reply to our newsletter. So, we have an SLP Wealth newsletter. I'll put some information on that in the show notes. If this hits home, share the episode with a friend. Subscribe if you haven't already. And this is where we're going to post our episodes going forward around financially related topics and have some fun. So thanks for joining. Anything you want to say before we close out, Sam?
Yeah, I would just say thanks for tuning in. And if there's any topics that you would love for us to cover about your financially free era, let us know and
Hmm.
we'll do an episode on it.
Awesome. And yes, this isn't just a new channel, it's the start of your financially free era, whatever that looks like for you. So we're very excited to be on it with you. And I hope you have a great weekend. We'll catch you on the next one.
Are you ready to unlock financial freedom faster with SLP Wealth? Get high quality, affordable, student loan aware financial planning and get the best deal for it anywhere that you're going to find working with your own dedicated SLP Wealth financial planner that is able to give you the best integrated advice across financial planning, investments, and tax, along with all the student loan hacks that you know you need and that you know impact all other areas of your financial planning. The deal you're going to find here is special just for podcast listeners. If you go to promo.slpwealth.com, you can sign up with a great discount off your first month. That's promo.slpwealth.com.